a lot of uncertainty in world economics because we don't know what that agenda is going to look like. There's been a lot of warning signs on tariffs, on different things, but we don't know what it's going to look like. So to predict what the gold price will do is very difficult given that environment, but it's been very supportive through a lot of chaos, I would say, COVID, the world wars we were talking about over the last couple of years. And the gold price has been supported very well. So I anticipate that we'll have a very supportive gold market, but I think it could be a lot more volatile than what we've seen in the last couple of years.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of CEO and Market Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Lucian. Some of you know me as Triangle Investor from social medias. Today, we are covering Western Exploration Inc., a gold company with projects in Nevada. The company is trading on TSXV under the symbol WEX and in the United States on OTC under the symbol WEXPF. I am joined by their CEO and President, Mr. Darcy Marud. Darcy, you're for the first time in my show, so a warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invite. Always a pleasure to meet new people.
Exactly. As a first timer in my show, can you give me a 2, 3 minute overview of your background and your origin story?
Sure, of course. So I'm originally Canadian. I'm living in the United States now. It's a long story how I ended up here, but it's career based. I'm an exploration by training, was trained at the University of Saskatchewan in the 80s. Ended up out of university working for Homestake Mining Company, which was a preeminent mining company for precious metals, for over 100 years into the 1980s. And with them, I was offered an opportunity in the early 90s to go to Chile. And I ended up going down to Chile to work on exploration projects in Patagonia, Chile. Met my future wife there and ended up working in Chile for a company called FMC Gold Company, which became Meridian Gold Company in the 90s. And with that company, we made a very significant discovery called El Peñón in Chile, which has currently produced about 5 million ounces of gold. I'd been involved with Peñón for about 25 to 30 years. So it was really what kind of got my career focused on high grade epithermal deposits. Based on that discovery, Yamana bought Meridian Gold in 2017, and I ended up when I left Yamana in 2017, I was executive vice president of strategy for Yamana, and I've been with Western Exploration now, based here out of Reno, Nevada, since 2018. So, exploration geologist by training, been involved in a number of discoveries through the Americas, but I've been based in Reno now since 2018, and Western Exploration offers the opportunity to have a base in Reno. Our project is in Nevada, so very easy to get back and forth from site and office.
That's a great background, and we will cover your projects and the company metrics. But before we do that, how do you see the current gold market environment, and how do you think 2025 will be for the gold price and the gold equities?
Yeah, I mean, if I could predict what the gold price would do and what it would look like, I would probably not be here, but be laying on a beach somewhere. But
Yeah.
certainly, it's a complicated environment right now. We have a lot of political instability in the world, especially, between Russia and the Ukraine, what's going on in the Middle East. And that always seems to support gold price. As much as we hate to say it, those kind of events in the world are supportive of the gold price. A lot of uncertainty in world economics because we don't know what that agenda is going to look like. There's been a lot of warning signs on tariffs, on different things, but we don't know what it's going to look like. So to predict what the gold price will do is very difficult given that environment, but it's been very supportive through a lot of chaos, I would say, COVID, the world wars we were talking about over the last couple of years. And the gold price has been supported very well. So I anticipate that we'll have a very supportive gold market, but I think it could be a lot more volatile than what we've seen in the last couple of years.
That's a good point. What about the equities? What's your take on the future performance of the equities? Nevertheless, how the price of commodity performs?
Yeah, and I think they'll be volatile as well, but I think there's more upside in the equities. They tend to play a little bit of catch up on the gold price. And certainly last year we saw the gold price rally 25 to 30%. The gold equities were below that. I think there's been a bit of a disconnect between investing in gold equities versus investing in the physical metal, whether that's due to ETFs or whether it's due to how physical gold is traded now. The physical gold market is largely controlled in Asian markets right now. So Asian, people seem to be investing in the physical metal itself, whereas in North America and Europe, maybe less so. And North America in particular used to invest heavily in gold equities as a leverage to the gold price. But I think Bitcoin and the rally in the Nasdaq has taken some of the wind out of those sails. So I think there's room for the gold equities to catch up. And certainly I hope for the developers and juniors that feed the larger companies, they're certainly undervalued and have a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, your projects are in Nevada. That's the right place for gold mining and discoveries, and you're definitely not an early stage company since you have compliant resource across three gold and silver deposits. So let's start with that. How much of the material do you have in the ground, and what are you currently actually doing on your projects?
So we have about 1.3 to 1.4 million ounces in resource, and that is fully compliant with the 43-101 technical report that's on our website. And what we're doing with that is, as you said, three different deposits. The one, which is called Doby George, is an oxide at surface heap leachable deposit. So we're currently completing a PEA on that, which would give the first economic analysis of what a mine could look like there. And we anticipate having that completed by mid-April of this year. So that will give everybody a first look at that 500,000 ounce oxide. And it's pretty high grade, over a gram per ton right at surface. And that could be seen as kind of a kickstart for the company of a project that we could develop on our own and potentially take forward into production because it's not that large, but very good grade. And then we've got a new discovery we call Wood Gulch, which was an old mine by Homestake, and adjacent to it, Gravel Creek. And the Wood Gulch Gravel Creek combination is where we've been doing most of our drilling and exploration over the last 2 years. And we've made some significant high grade discoveries there where we're seeing gold grades in excess of 30 gram per ton and up to 4,000 gram per ton silver. So very rich gold silver deposit that is analogous to a lot of the old high grade gold mines in northern Nevada. So we think we've made a new discovery there that could be similar to some of those old producers that produced over 2, 3 million ounces of gold in the past.
Yeah, can you tell me more? You mentioned it is a shallow deposit. What is the average depth on the deposits? And if you can say more about the grades and generally about the geology in the area.
Yeah. So very good question. So the two deposits, the two main ones we have, which are Doby George and Gravel Creek, are very different. The Doby George is like the Carlin type deposits, the one you hear about in Nevada with the big Barrick Newmont mines like Carlin and Battle Mountain, et cetera. So it's hosted in sedimentary rocks. It's just over 1 gram per ton, but it occurs right at surface. So it's the type of deposit that you would mine with an open pit, cyanide leach on a heap leach pad and recover the gold. So very low cost operation, but given the grade that we've got there of 1 gram per ton, it should have very good margins to the gold price. The other discovery, Gravel Creek, very deep. It's about 500 meters below surface. It's not oxide. It would have to be an underground mine, but it's much higher grade. The current deposit is about 700,000 ounces at about 6 gram per ton gold, but it's about 20 meters thick. So very wide, good grade. And right adjacent to that, we've made this high grade vein discovery. We think they're connecting eventually. So we've got this wide lower grade area and then this narrower high grade area that right now we have 700,000 ounces, but we think we have potential to get to potentially 2 million ounces in the future there through additional exploration. So it is younger. It is in the volcanic rocks and not the sedimentary rocks. And it is what we call an epithermal deposit, not a Carlin type deposit. So two different styles of mineralization. They form in two different areas, and one would be an open pit at surface. The other one would be an underground mine.
That's very interesting, actually, but they're pretty close, right?
They're only about 8 kilometers apart,
And
somewhere between 6 to 8 kilometers in distance between the two of them.
yeah, that's very interesting since they are close and the geology is actually different.
Exactly right. It's like we're right on the boundary of the sediment rocks on one side and the volcanic on the other side. But from an explorationist point of view, that's rather unique that you get three different deposits on one piece of property that close together. So it gives you a lot of different options on how you pursue, rewarding your shareholders through either discovery or development and production. So we've got a lot of different areas that we can pursue. And I always tell everybody, we're not limited by our ability to make discovery. As a junior company, we're limited by capital and financial resources,
Of
right?
course.
So there's a lot that we can be doing, but we're very prudent in the way we utilize our treasury. We don't want to go and dilute our shareholders, 3 or 4 times a year just to keep the drills going. What we do is we typically raise capital for a proposed program to our shareholders. We execute that program, receive the results, and then we'll go back to them to plan the next path forward. So we've been very prudent in how we approach that. And I think it's paid dividends. We only have about 44 million shares outstanding in the company right now. And we try to protect that shareholder base through limited dilution.
That sounds good. I want to ask you about your exploration and development plans. How are they looking for 2025? Do you have some early plans on all your projects in
We're
plan?
working on that right now. We've got certainly that PEA at Doby George will be completed in mid-April, and that'll dictate what we do next at Doby George. I think it'll be a combination of drilling to extend the deposit and some drilling to also confirm some of the findings of the PEA. So that will be coming in April. For Gravel Creek, we've just completed this year that high-grade drilling that was very successful. We completed 5 drill holes that have highlighted 350 meters of high-grade mineralization along strike. Open it to the north. The northernmost hole still has 40 gram per ton gold and a kilo of silver that's never been followed up. And to the south, we've got intersects that are narrower. They're less than a meter, but up to 33 gram per ton gold with a kilo of silver. So it's wide open. So certainly we'll be proposing some drilling to extend that, not really infill it yet. We're more worried about finding out how big we can make that. And then we're working on a third area that is currently around the old Wood Gulch mine that Homestake mined in the 80s to see if we do some preliminary exploration there. So a lot on the go, and we're just trying to finalize what that program looks like. So we can't really say yet what the capital needs for the company would be into 2025.
Okay, so if I get it right, you will do some wildcat drilling, some new test some new areas on the projects.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it so much wildcat because they're very close to old mines or very close to where we have some grade, but they're in areas where there's no current resource, put it that way. So that if it was successful, it would be a path to resource addition very quickly.
Okay, fair enough. How is the infrastructure there, and who are your neighbors, the mining companies
Yeah,
operating?
so infrastructure is very good. It's only 3 kilometers off of a paved highway, and that paved highway connects the city of Elko, Nevada, which was, I think it's the third largest city in Nevada right now, maybe the fourth, somewhere in there. But it's only about an hour and 10-minute drive north of Elko, which is a city of about 40,000 people. And we're 3 kilometers off that paved highway. Power line goes right down that access road, and we have permanent water wells on our site. So water, power, road access is all right there. And our office is located in a small community called Mountain City, which is only about 15 kilometers to the north of our project. So we have our office there and we have core facilities. So very well located. Our nearest neighbors to the south is the Jarrett Canyon mine, which is owned by First Majestic. Jarrett Canyon's been in operation since the mid 70s. So it's produced about 9 million ounces of gold in its history and still has another 3 million of resource. And between us and Jarrett Canyon's another small operation called Big Springs. Big Springs is permitted, but currently not in production. But it's a resource of about 1.2 million ounces. So immediately adjacent our project within 20 kilometers are 2 significant mines that have been active since the 70s.
Okay, is there any available land for staking? Do you plan to stake more land
We always
surrounding
look
your?
at that. Certainly because of the activity in that area, there's not a lot of available land. So we look at that on a regular basis, and if anything comes open, we look to acquire it. We think the land holdings we have right now cover what we need to have for successful exploration and development. but certainly we're always got our eye to the ground, so to speak, to see if there's anything else we could acquire.
Okay, yeah, that's my next question. I asked you about staking the land. What about M&A? Are you an M&A oriented company?
We like to think we are because as geologists, you're always looking for big shiny objects, the next big thing. But we're really excited about what we're doing right now. And when we look at other opportunities, they're not as good as what we're currently doing. So we're very careful to make sure anything we would do would be accretive to our shareholders on that basis, that it doesn't distract from what they've invested in now. And I think they've invested in us to advance this new high grade discovery and the PEA at Doby George. And once that's done, we can sit back and look and see if there's anything else we should be doing. But for right now, we're really focused on just what we're doing at our Aura project.
Okay, who are the people in your team? We learned about you, about your background. What about the other people from the management side, technical side, advisory side?
Yeah, so we are a very small company, as we're all, and the whole team is located right here in Reno, Nevada, which I think is great. We're in the office together every day. So our VP of Exploration is Mark Hawksworth. Mark has been Director of Exploration for Yamana, Director of Exploration for North America for Meridian and FMC for about 30 years. So Mark and I have worked together for in excess of 20 years, and he's made significant discoveries in Canada and Mexico. So he's a drill or project oriented geologist, and he runs the exploration at site. John Cleary is our senior consulting geologist that works with Mark, and he's been with the company since the late 90s on and off. So he helped put the original program together, was responsible for that Gravel Creek discovery in 2013. So between Mark bringing his experience of successful discovery at other projects and managing that discovery process right through production, and John's expertise on the project, we have a very strong technical team. On the management side, Curtis Turner is our CFO, and Curtis and I have worked together in the past in Chile. He was the controller of the El Peñon mine when I was there. And Curtis has had a career working with Argonaut Gold, Cyanco, I-80 Gold in various roles of business development, CFO and CEO. So it's a team that's worked together in the past a lot. I think we've got a lot of skills that are complementary to each other. And because we've been involved in projects right from grassroots to development before, we kind of understand where those strengths lie for each individual, so we can kind of push and pull those. And last but not least, Nicole Cowles is our Director of Investor Relations. And Nicole was Director of Investor Relations for Argonaut up until, I think, 2016 when she left to raise a young family. And she's back now working with us. And again, importantly, all of those people are located here in Reno, Nevada.
Yeah, that definitely saves money. When it comes to money, what is your current cash position?
Right now, we've about $1.5 million in the bank, and we're not drilling. So that can last for probably over 6 months if we wanted it to. That's not the end of the story, though. We know we're going to be proposing drill programs. So at some point, we will raise capital. We will look at how we do that. We do have some very significant shareholders in the company. Agnico Eagle owns about 13% of the equity of the company. And we have a large private equity group out of New York called Golconda, which founded the private company in 2013, has invested about $30 million into it. They currently own about 44% of the company. So we have two significant shareholders that we usually talk to first on strategy, on how we want to pursue funding the company going forward. But we do have a lot of institutional and retail shareholders in the company that have been good followers of ours since we went public in 2022. So it'll be a conversation with all those people about what's next. How do we do this?
Do you know approximate percentages of the retail holdings?
It fluctuates, but it's probably somewhere between 10 and 15% retail.
Okay, 10, 15%, that's pretty tight.
Yeah.
When it comes to insiders, how much do the insiders have?
It's it's probably excuse me, it's somewhere between 5 and 6% that insiders have.
Okay.
Some of it is directly held, and some of it is held in that private equity group, excuse me, called Golconda, which was the group that held the whole asset before we went public in 2022.
Mhm, mhm. Uh, you said you will probably raise in 2025. Okay, that's normal. You're an exploration company and you need money. How hard is to raise money today?
You know, I think it depends on the asset and what you're trying to do with that asset. For example, I think developers today with a good high quality asset are not having issues raising capital. I think there is a focus on near-term cash flow for some investors. So if they can see a development opportunity that will provide cash flow in the short term, say 2 or 3 years, I think they are having an easier time raising equity. Again, it depends on the quality of the asset.
Of course.
And I think in the junior mining space, if you know, a company has a tight share structure and they've got a good asset and they're very focused on, adding to resource base rather than wildcatting, I think there's an opportunity to raise capital. It's very competitive though. So the cost of capital tends to be high for junior mining companies right now.
Yeah, you're right about that. What about G&A numbers? How much is your monthly cash burn? How much are the management fees? If you can give me some color on that as well.
Of course. So our G&A on a yearly basis, it's hard to say on a monthly basis
Of
because
course.
it kind of fluctuates with activity, but I would say on an annual basis, it's about 1.4 million. And of that, about 450,000 is salaries to management, which is CEO, CFO, IR, and accounting staff. So we try to keep our G&A pretty low and focus it on, the exploration. Our offices in Reno are less than $50,000 a year. So, we're not living the lap of luxury here. We really do try to focus it on the exploration. So somewhere about $150,000 a year would be or 150,000 a month would be our burn rate on G&A.
Okay, that's very reasonable. I am speaking with a lot of companies and I see all kinds of numbers and
Yeah.
I have to agree this is pretty reasonable. Final question, Darcy, news flow from the company. What can investors expect and when can they expect news from the company?
Yeah, certainly, we'll be talking about our exploration program coming up in the next probably month, I would say, on what that's going to look like. And that'll kind of outline the capital expenditures for the year. And so that can, give the people an idea of what we're going to need to raise for capital. By mid-April, we'll have that PEA completed on Doby George and a resource update for Gravel Creek as part of that. I don't expect the resources to change that much because the work has been done on advancing the PEA at Doby George, some more infill drilling there. And the exploration drilling at Gravel Creek is probably too wide to increase the resource yet. And then starting in May, June of this year, you can look forward to us starting to talk about our drill program going forward at that high grade area and this new exploration target we're going to be proposing. So it'll be a combination of PEA coming out in April and exploration work pretty much through June right to the end of the year.
Okay, that was Western Exploration Chief Executive Officer and President Darcy Marud. Darcy, I really wish you luck with the company going forward, especially the PEA, and let's catch up when you will have new updates.
I would really appreciate that opportunity. Thank you for your time. And as always, if you're in Nevada, come see us. I'd love to get you out to site.